and welcome to Round Reviews, and today we're doing another Hong Kong content review, this time exploring a brand new ground for the channel, a milestone as you will. As you know, I have been exploring Hong Kong cinema in a brand new light for the past couple of years or so now with Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, Jet Li, so many great action legends and directors, and diving into all this rich kind of content. But there is still one man that I have not covered on the channel, one man that I have not reviewed any of his films, not properly anyway, and I figured it is time, with the massive discussions and excitement over the new Bruce Lee box set that Arrow is putting out later in the year, that features lots of brand new kind of 4K transfers and extended cuts. And the man himself is a pop culture icon. He is referenced in almost everything from parodies to video games. He is imitated. He is still a hot topic discussion piece even after his death. Biographical movies, cameos in Quentin Tarantino movies, IP Man movies, the Bruce Lee kind of exploitation. The man defines martial arts for a lot of people, still defined with an action, and his image, his presence, his attitude, his charisma, and his whole demeanor is still very much valued within a lot of fans so many years later. And I have to say, coming into it, it is quite overwhelming. And I'm coming at this film, The Big Boss, the first one, released in 1971, for the very first time. And just like my other content on the channel, guys, I'm going to be keeping it real, I'm going to be keeping it honest. I'm going to give you my thoughts and impressions on these films and how I feel about them as films, and kind of dive into my thought process as I go into the amazing box set from Criterion. I know obviously the Arrow box is coming out soon, but this is the edition. They've had a little bit of time now, and I've been trying to find a way to kind of talk about these movies and kind of find a way to kind of celebrate kind of Bruce Lee, and I think now is the absolute perfect time. So join with me on this experience for the very first time. As mentioned, The Big Boss was released in 1971, directed by Lo Wei, who has done a load of movies for Shaw Brothers. He's got a massive resume of loads of kind of martial arts based movies and just lots of content in general, lots of different quality. A lot of these ones are slowly creeping their way into kind of premium kind of 2K scan Blu-ray editions. A lot of them are still kind of lost on the VHS kind of era kind of thing, but so they could definitely do a whole library of movies based on this director. And there's a few that I have seen, and there's a few that I have watched, with some of the Jackie Chan movies, especially with the new Fist of Fury and Dragon Fist, Spiritual Kung Fu, and there's quite a few others. And I've kind of got a sense of that director and how I feel about him. And funny enough, all of his movies, I kind of feel all about the same kind of level, about the same kind of level of quality. I do think they're nice, compact, kind of cheaper, low budget movies, martial art based movies. They're not great, they're not perfect, they're somewhere in between the middle. And I feel this is the same with The Big Boss as well. And just to kind of give you my kind of insight into kind of my background, with Bruce Lee as an actual martial arts star and as a performer, as a kind of and a pop culture icon, as mentioned, I don't really have that massive connection in that sense. For me, I never grew up with Bruce Lee. I never grew up with a lot of Hong Kong movies in that sense. A lot of people have. A lot of people think these movies are the best of the best kind of thing, and they give these the most highest regard ever. They give it the highest praise, and they love everything about Bruce Lee. And I think people love the man more than the actual movies themselves, and I think they're willing to kind of look past a lot of the flaws and a lot of the kind of low quality kind of efforts in places, and just kind of enjoy the experience. So that's perfectly enjoy. And I don't think The Big Boss is a bad movie. I think, as mentioned, it is a somewhere in the middle. It's kind of like a bit of an odd kind of enigma movie. And looking at some of the kind of bonus features on the Criterion set, it gives me a bit more insight into what happened. And being back to more interestingly with the extended cut on the new Arrow edition, is more interesting as well, to see what kind of scenes they put back into the movie. I don't think the next 10 minutes of deleted scenes are going to make much difference, if I'm being absolutely honest, even with potential more violence and a bit more kind of talking kind of pieces. I don't think it's going to add more. I think even with an hour and 40-minute movie the way it is, I think it struggles to even manage that level. The story for The Big Boss is very simple. It is Bruce Lee and James Chein as the kind of main lead for the first 45 minutes before it becomes a Bruce Lee movie. And the story basically is a bunch of kind of immigrants that have come over to basically work and to kind of make money for their family and to send them back overseas. Bruce Lee comes overseas and he's working in this kind of ice factory run by kind of a shady kind of businessman who basically are importing drugs within the ice itself. And you've got all these kind of low-income families, low-income workers, hard workers that are just trying to make a living, and they come there for opportunity. Bruce Lee is someone who's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder, he's a bit angry, he's a bit annoyed, he's got this kind of promise necklace that he's done to his mom, and he doesn't want to get into trouble. He's obviously a bit of a troublemaker and he's a bit on edge, and for the first portion of the film he is the secondary kind of character to the main lead character in the film. And it's interesting going behind the scenes on the Criterion edition, because they basically said whoever is the best actor, who has the most screen presence, gives the best performance or has the most energy on some of the daily kind of reels will get to live and will be killed halfway through the film. Interesting motivation, interesting kind of tactic for a kind of a low budget kind of movie, and I think it adds to something to the film, but also it kind of makes a lot of sense in terms of some of that pacing, in terms of some of the issues I do have with it. And I think it's kind of universally known. I don't think this is a particularly revolution. I don't think people are going to be, dying on the sword for this film necessarily. I think the film itself is pretty average, a Hong Kong movie, kind of, martial arts film. I think it has some good strong points. I think it has a lot of weak points. Two workers get missing. They get killed in quite a nasty, violent way, in a sense. They get literally decapitated and placed in the ice, which I think is just quite surprising. From this point, the workers are getting very suspicious, everyone's getting very angry, and the tensions are rising, and Bruce Lee's just had enough. He's done. He's going to fight back. He takes over kind of management, and there's a weird kind of like little mini kind of portion of the film where he is getting seduced by power, and he's getting drunk, and he's kind of sleeping with women in places, and there's a weird kind of love connection between him and this kind of a woman that's close by, and there's a weird kind of connection that isn't really kind of fleshed out that well. It's kind of do anything. She's just there for emotional sequences, and she gets herself endangered towards the kind of the late third act of the film, and then she just kind of happens to be there. There's no kind of grand rescue or anything. She just happens to be in the film to have the characters feel something. She's there to cry, she's there to be a bit of a flirt, and that's all of her character really is. And of course, as you can imagine, all hell breaks loose and characters are being killed off left, right and centre, and surprisingly a lot of the good portion of the cast within the film are actually killed, and it's up to kind of Bruce Lee to kind of avenge them, and he's pissed off, he's angry, he's going full on kind of full charisma, Bruce Lee kind of macho with the kind of the nose and licking at the blood and just having snacks and doing his kind of full on presence, bigger than life kind of charm action Bruce Lee that we kind of know and a lot of people love within the. All this leads to a pretty excellent last 10 minutes of the film. I do think the last 10 minutes is actually pretty badass and pretty awesome, and I do think it cements the whole film overall. I think it's the most memorable part of it completely. I do feel the last 10 minutes was the most choreographed, the most kind of worked on, the most kind of thought out, and just kind of massive change of kind of direction overall, because a lot of the film to this point, it's been quite kind of amateurish. It's kind of like there's no real kind of style kind of presented. It's the most exciting, the most kind of well kind of constructed kind of choreographed fight scene, because there's a lot of excellent use of kind of camera work and editing and just kind of movements, and the music is non-existent because it's just pure fight, and it's fantastic. And I definitely feel like both the villain and Bruce Lee got to kind of really show off what they were made of, and there's some really nice tense kind of action moments and contact moves, and the sound effects are really on point, and I think that having the lack of soundtrack really kind of adds to it as well, and the tensions are high and the violence gets kind of intense. I think it's a really nice last 10 minutes of the film, and I think it really pays off for that final grand fight between our main villain character. I wish the rest of the film was also have the same energy as character in his performance. I think he does the best when he can with the material given, and that's definitely apparent with watching the extras also in terms of how I feel about it, because he definitely feels like he is definitely the side character for the portion of the film. Obviously we know with reason why for that, and he's just kind of there. He seems bored, if I'm being absolutely honest. I think he's offering this kind of cool, kind of quiet type. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they even like had him smoke for like an alternative scene or something, because he definitely feels like a traditional kind of typical kind of 70s kind of, you know, outlook. You know, the guy that doesn't say much, the Clint Eastwood, the, you know, the Steve McQueen, that kind of guy that's in the background just doing some cool stuff, or he's holding back but he's really pissed off and angry. And there's moments where he's actually like doing exactly that. He's allowing his kind of main co-star to kind of fight these bad guys, and he's just kind of there holding back, and he kind of punches the two bad guys and they kind of flat out fall out. That's pretty cool. It's awesome. Sometimes your secondary character can become the most iconic and the most kind of, you know, fan favorite, and the fact that they kind of deciding who had the most kind of charm, the most kind of energy during halfway through the production, I think is absolutely hilarious, to say the least. But I definitely feel there's a missed opportunity within the film. I think the kind of initial co-star of the film could have actually been turned to be a bad guy. The fact that he went missing throughout kind of the halfway point, the 45-minute mark, and doesn't appear up again until his kind of death reveal with an ice cube. I think that's pretty funny also. But I definitely feel there's a missed opportunity with that. I think there could have been some nice kind of tension with that kind of reveal towards the kind of the third act, leading into the second act leading to the third act. So overall, my thoughts and opinions on The Big Boss, my very first time watching this film and getting an understanding of Bruce Lee, who he was as this kind of giant myth, kind of martial arts legend, watching his first proper movie, martial arts movie that kind of broke box office records, that kind of changed the kind of landscape of Hong Kong movies and put it in a brand new direction with his kind of sense of, you know, charisma and style and charm and his kind of swagger kind of thing, bringing this kind of new flavor to kind of, you know, Hong Kong cinema. I think it was an interesting kind of viewing experience, and definitely don't think the film holds up as well as people give it credit for. I think the film is, it's fine. It's kind of just, again, just in the middle. It's not great, it's not bad, it's somewhere in the middle. I definitely think it has a lot of flaws. I think it has some terrible pacing issues, terrible 70s music. However, you do get Bruce Lee trying his best with the material given. I think when he allows to, you know, have fun with his character, and he's allowing to have a bit of fun with the kind of fights and his kind of mannerisms, that's when it kind of picks up the pace a little bit. Is he a great performer in the film? Not really. I don't think his performance is ever that special. I think most of the acting in the film, I don't think is particularly that great. However, most people don't, you know, watch these films for a grand story or a big kind of emotional performance. I mean, I do. That's why that's how I connect with characters. That's how I connect with kind of action. I think emotion, characters really kind of, you know, all kind of flows into the kind of action set moments, and I think it gets a little bit of that within the third act, with obviously with a lot of the characters being killed off and the stakes getting higher. I think that's when the last 10 minutes really kind of knocks a bit more, because there's a bit more kind of energy on the screen. There's a bit more control in terms of how the camera works and how it's edited and put together. I think that's definitely the kind of the selling point of the film. It's a shame it's taken an hour and a half to get to that last 10 minutes to make it something kind of truly special. But I do think a lot of the action moments definitely are kind of varied in kind of quality, between kind of pretty good to kind of average to pretty excellent. So what are your thoughts and opinions, guys, on The Big Boss? Please comment down below. Are you excited for this brand new extended cut? What are your thoughts and opinions on the deleted scenes and, you know, the behind the scenes nature of this film? Do you think this is definitely his best film? Do you think this is his worst film? What are your favorite moments? I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions on this film, on Bruce Lee. Please comment down below. Let's create a discussion. Let's get excited for that Bruce Lee box set coming out very, very soon, guys. So in the meantime, Alfie Reviews, signing out.